Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having an amazing week and back at it. So, Valora, I'll look at you to see if you're shaking your head. We are doing some gratitude, and then we're going to have individuals bring up topics they would like to discuss, and we'll just facilitate that conversation. All right. Oh, I'm seeing some people I miss. Amy, I see your face. Girl, it has been a while. You look great.
Thanks, Josh. It's been a little too long since we've talked.
We need to go play sometime. All right. Okay, so I am just going to ask that a couple people throw some items into the chat, and then we'll go with the discussion topics. We have previously attempted to try to go into breakout rooms, and it doesn't always work if we go by topic into breakout rooms. So this is the best way that we can leverage this activity, is kind of doing it all in one large group. So bear with us, and we'll make sure that we divide the time up enough so we can get a conversation over all the topics that you're needing. So if someone wants to throw some ideas in the chat, then we can bring those up and start having some good discourse over them.
They must be tired this morning, Josh.
Well, I know I am. I will bring up one.
Go for it.
Okay, so why don't you guys help me understand how you are utilizing your, I want to talk about MTSS, secondary, elementary, doesn't matter. Talk to me about how you're using your progress monitoring data to inform decisions with moving groups. I just like to hear what other schools are doing. So anybody like to give some shout out to how they're facilitating MTSS? Oh, hold on, Laura Batson, another one I love. Laura, hello, miss you too.
That's a great topic too.
So
Laura.
why don't we stop mine and go with Laura's? Laura's asking training ideas for subs hired under emergency requirements. Who got some ideas?
I was thinking about that the other day with our superintendent, Mr. Howie, and we were throwing around the ideas that maybe our district would require 10 to 20 hours of professional learning with our service center as a partner.
What do you think that 10 to, you said 10 to 12 or 10 to 20?
10 to 20, we don't know. We're just throwing ideas out, you know, classroom management, just the basics, survival skills.
Boot camp.
It's almost what we do for new teachers to the profession, maybe. Some of
Exactly.
that mentoring. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Independence is still talking about the new ruling. You know, we are just as desperate as everybody else, but we're a little concerned about just high school diploma people taking a position in the classroom. It seems to further support that we're babysitting kids instead of really teaching them. So we will probably still require some type of college credit, but we haven't decided what. It might not be the full 60 in order to sub in our district.
Hey, Kelly, how's it going? Good to hear from you.
You too. And it's we're down a lot of subs today.
Yeah, good morning. This is Stacy at Shawnee Heights. We're desperate for subs, and at this point I think we would treat them kind of like student teachers and maybe assign somebody to sort of be the certified person in charge, just to kind of check in with them throughout the day. The main thing is don't leave your kids unattended and don't let anybody get hurt. I mean, we're kind of at that point. We have sub positions every day that go unfilled, so we need the help. And
hey, Stacey, it's good to see you.
How are you?
I'm good. I love that idea too. Of how
Stacey,
you're doing that.
We had to add and don't cuss.
You know, at this point, I'm not sure I even care. Maybe a list of a few words you can't say, but other than that, I don't even care.
We had a sub call classroom of kids, a bunch of SHIT heads.
Well, if the shoe fits, I mean, come on. I'm sorry, I'm being very unprofessional here.
First off, no.
You
you're
know what? We need some humor this morning. I think we're all professional, and we need to hear some of those stories that make us laugh this morning.
The
So we
other
also-
thing we might
Oh, sorry,
do.
go on. Go
Sorry.
on. Nope.
The other thing we might do is people from this, let's say off the street that you're bringing in, those might be the paraprofessional subs, and we might take our paras who do know a few things about education and put them in front of a classroom. So that might be the way we get around that, but that's
Ooh,
just,
I love that.
That's what we've talked about, Stacy.
yeah.
So we also have a chat here that we have a training and ed puzzle that they must complete before we allow them to sub. It covers management, engagement, strategies, legalities, and it gets them working with technology. So if they're substituting in a class and they have to utilize technology as a sub, it also shows that they have ability to access and engage with some technology as well.
Yeah, and I like the legalities piece, because I think one of the biggest things that we forget sometimes is mandatory reporting.
Yes. Oh, Faith. Oh, it's good to see you too up here in the chat. We need admin subs as well. Whoa.
Sorry, I'd show my face, but I'm sitting here with COVID, so I don't think everybody wants to look at me right now. But
You're
anyway.
beautiful all the time, Faith.
So what is everybody doing to cover buildings right now with administrators out, superintendents out, curriculum people out, all the above?
Faith, we've just tried to, if we have a teacher leader in our building and we can get a sub for their class, that they often will sub for if they have their admin license. We have some of those teachers. We've also just put all of our business office, if you will, people on notice that we may have to call on you guys also to help cover some places so that other people could cover. Not that our business people would be administrators, but they may cover someone else who could then go and take care of things. So everybody's on alert.
Fortunately, Faith, I haven't been quite yet hit. So for me, I have an assistant principal, and then inside our school, I have admin interns. So we would use those. But of course, we have to have subs. I will also tell you, our district administrators have taught in my classroom. So when we've been short, our district admin, and for those of you that don't know, I work in the Siemens School District, have come down and taught in classrooms for us. Two of those beautiful individuals are on the call this morning. Becky Kramer and Megan Nussbaum have come down and supported us at different times. So I will tell you, we're really fortunate that when we're real tight, everybody suits up and gets ready to teach content that they may know or may not be as comfortable. I'm also seeing people say we put admin supports in buildings for secretaries. Oh, hey, first off, Josh, good to see you. Second off, whichever student has the most discipline points gets to be the principal for the day. That's hilarious.
That's cool.
It's something. We have district admin subbing, rearranging, district admin trying to get the lease to visit buildings without be on call. Hey, Gwen, how are you? They're helping out there at Wellsville. And then Laura said all district admin receptionists, district coaches are in buildings helping. Yep, instructional coaches. And our instructional coaches, we really try to value their time and keep them from becoming those fill-ins, but our coaches have substituted, our librarians have. I mean, just about everybody in the building goes in, and our social worker goes in and teaches when we need to.
Hey, Josh, I'll go back. Kelly, as one of her gratitudes, said that she got to get into the classroom and it was just fun to be back in the classroom and know that you still got it.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So sometimes it's a blessing in disguise.
Well, I believe we were all teachers previously, so we should like the idea of teaching. So it doesn't hurt to get back in there and brush up on those old classroom management skills that we speak to in instructional strategies. So yeah, I agree. I don't know if we've started looking at the new sub requirement in our district yet about that and how we're going to maneuver through. But I really like the idea of using paraprofessionals in the building who already have experience and then finding substitutes for them. That really makes a lot of sense because they know the kids, they know our expectations, our processes, especially those experienced paraprofessionals.
Okay, now that you guys are all warmed up, what other topics do you want to visit about? Josh, I'd kind of like to hear yours because I was actually, before you said that, I was going to ask about MTSS myself because I know COVID has really put some walls to what we can do right now.
Houston, we have a problem.
I just got a message from Michelle Miller too. She said, if we have any questions on accreditation or licensure, if you want to put those in the chat box, I can get those questions answered and I can send them out on the curriculum listserv after our networking this morning.
Is more information going out regarding reporting HGSS state assessment information? So that's the question of, does it go up through your SIS from your local school district once you complete the assessment? Is that the question you're asking? That's the last I knew of how we'll report it.
Well, I
Unless
think
that's changed.
I had some questions in general. Christy Witter, Gardner Edgerton School District. We're working on those. The rubric, since the rubric is the same for the grade levels, if there's going to be any direction on that. And then, like I said, is that going to be an end of the year building report? Are we uploading those scores? How are we doing that?
I'm
I
pretty sure
understand
it's
it
gonna
goes
be
in
good.
the EOYA upload at the end of the year. There's in your student information system, there should be some fields to put those rubric scores in. And then when your data steward uploads that end of the year report, that's how it's fed into the system, as I understand.
That's how I understand it as well.
I can chime in real quick too. Is Jennifer Haney on this call? Because at the curriculum leaders meeting Wednesday, she was compiling a form, a template that people could use that had the code columns that you'll need when you do your upload. So I know she was working on that. Is she on here and want to weigh in?
So it'd be like a CSV that you would upload, Becky? Is that what she's doing?
I thought I saw her on the call. Yes, I believe so. But the nice thing about it is it's got the exact codes that we'll need to enter so that it's a nice clean file.
I do believe she was on earlier, but I don't see her now.
The one thing that we're trying to maneuver through in my building is the state assessment requirements for every child to take it for the social studies. So really making sure that we're working that across all types of classrooms, including our classrooms that have more functional based learning taking place, how we create an assessment that's intentional, meaningful, and going to provide the students an opportunity to demonstrate what they really know. So that's one thing that we've already started writing our assessment for our general education classrooms, but it's our special education classrooms that we're really starting to consider what that's going to look like and how we make sure we put the proper modifications and accommodations in place that it's appropriate for all learners, especially since the expectation is that every child take the assessment, including students that are taking college classes instead of traditional classes in the high school as well. So it's definitely going to be, while it's great that it's based in classroom learning and context of what you're teaching, it will take some time to maneuver through all of that.
Josh, along those lines too, I know we did it last year, and our high school teachers struggled a little bit with getting the project, with the students who maybe struggle getting their projects completed. And so this year they're making sure that they're having checkpoints along the way, and really checking in with those kids that they know typically might struggle getting projects completed. So just know that when your teachers are getting started, for them to have a conversation about how they work with students who might be a little on the slacker side.
We're using a contract base, you know, the old contracts that used to write where this is due here, this part's due here, and then we're having check-ins put in because you're right. There needs to be a lot of support if you're not going to provide full classroom time for them to complete it. I agree with you. So thank you for sharing that with me. There are more chats here. Okay, yes, our problem is students who are repeating 10th grade, but will make up credits and catch back up. We have pretty much every social studies class doing something. Any ideas for kids out on quarantine during the entire project? How long are you planning to have your project? What's the pacing going to be for your class, I guess would be the first question I asked to that.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. In independence, if the kids aren't there when the project is being done, those are not going to have scores. Is that going to affect our participation? Probably. But I'm trying to make this manageable for my teachers too.
Well, the nice thing though, Kelly, is this isn't federally required. So it's not like it's going to hold against you like math, social, science, and language arts.
I also think that eventually we will have multiple projects throughout a year where kids that miss would be able to pick up on another, but that's not where we are this year. They prepared an assessment. Moving forward, they will have more opportunities, but right now we're just going to submit zeros on the ones that didn't finish. And we have some that have scores for parts, but weren't there for, maybe they have 2 rubric scores, but not a third because they weren't there to do that piece of it. So.
I'll piggyback off of that. That's exactly what we did this year, Kelly, at the elementary level. And Seaman is, we had multiple projects throughout the year. So if a kid missed one, they still have 2 more opportunities. And we started it clear back second quarter. And then we have 2 more projects each quarter through the end of the year. Because we also know another thing we were worried about is kids that move into our district and maybe would have missed our assessment our project that we already implemented. So we knew we needed to offer another one later in the year for those new enrollees.
And then Gwendolyn Jacobs asked any direction for grading, samples, etc. I know that our school chose to give samples at the end of this year. So those may be coming out next year that we're supposed to provide some samples of what our students did. And then of course, what went along with that. So maybe those will be more available after this first round. Because I know that they did a random sampling of schools that have to provide some of their samples. So that may be helpful.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the validity of the testing and stuff like that, and credibility of the testing. That's all. It doesn't seem to be there this year.
It's very local.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And when this assessment was originally brought together, I was on that committee, and the one question that was all asked was, what are we really looking for here? Is this going to be something that we state this score is going to be the same score in this building, in this building, in this building? How's inter-rater reliability going to be considered? And that's still a concern I think we have. But for me, because it's so based in the classroom, what I've told the teachers in my school is this is about us evaluating how our students are able to go through a very deep process of investigation and how they're able to leverage the skills that we're teaching them. So for us, it should be very instructionally, embedded. So then we're seeing it's more like a curriculum based measure than it is as a state assessment in my mind of how can students leverage the skills we're teaching and then us augment our practices here. But I don't know how we would compare to other places because everyone may have just a little different twist on looking at that rubric.
I totally agree with you. I don't believe that there will be any way for us to compare this to other districts because it's all being scored locally. But some parameters we put in place in our own district is that we want it to be a common assessment across the grades so that we've made efforts for inter-rater reliability so that we can use it as assessment data locally. But I would not compare that to anything that's released at the state level, because every project is different. Every group of teachers that grade it is different. Their understanding of the rubric. We've done nothing to create an array or reliability for that data to be compared.
Amen. And one thing we're doing this first round is we're going to come together as a team and we're going to evaluate together so we can have that, collegial experience of what evaluating assessment will be. Because in our school, and I'm only speaking for my own, but we're having the same common assessment across 7th grade. So everybody's doing the same one and the same experience, and we've got our pacing and everything together. So hopefully it'll also showcase what that looks like and how we evaluate it. So it'll be interesting. It kind of takes me back to when we were doing the MDPTs. We were reading those, we were evaluating them, but they were also local based. They weren't something that you could look across the state because everybody's going to evaluate those writing a little different. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of those that we did several years ago.
And Josh, when we talked to Glenn Weeby, the emphasis is definitely on the process rather than the grade. The kids can, the idea would be that everyone gets the best grade they possibly can. They have a whole year to redo their project until they get the best grade. It's really not about the grade. It's about the process and about the quality of the experience versus their performance on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's growth mindset. I love it.
Yeah, so it's less about comparing data and more about comparing experiences and the quality of the project. That would be what we could possibly compare.
And you can do some pretty cool stuff with it too, where you're leveraging a lot of different instructional strategies. So students are experiencing blended learning, project-based learning. I mean, the avenue to which you can instruct the unit and then evaluate having them go through the process is actually pretty exciting. So it could, I mean, it has the potential to really provide our history government instructors the opportunity to try some new instructional strategies maybe they haven't previously. So check the chat, see if there's anything else. Grading, teachers work together to grade their projects, but it's individual teachers grading. We've had teachers wanting to send it home, but I'm not in favor of sending home a state assessment. Well, that if it's really supposed to be about the process, like Stacy said, that would kind of break down the process if the kids are kind of doing it in all on their own. So I could hear that. Let's see if I missed any other comments. Okay. Anybody else have any questions they would like to chat about this morning or topics? I think I've caught all the ones in the hope revenue comment. We are keeping it very stress-free here. We will reflect at the end of the year and adjust as needed. Hey, Jackie, how's it going? It's been a long time since I've seen you too.
It's going great. Sorry, I don't have my phone or my video on. I'm at my mom's taking care of her. So I'm kind of lurking and participating, doing a little bit of both.
And nothing wrong with that. It's good to hear from you.
Hey Josh, it's Marcy from Halstead, and I just wanted to share a strategy that we're using to kind of help scaffold the classroom-based assessment. We're using some MTSS time, and we have some Scholastic magazines that are very kid-friendly. They're one pages, easy to get through, and students are going through the process where they have to read the question, and it's making a claim like, should students have assigned seats at lunch, or cell phones a good thing in classrooms? And we've kind of scaffolded it to where they're reading those, and then we're citing the evidence specifically, and then they're having oral debates. And then we're going to, now they're writing theirs, and then we're going to, now they're having to cite outside sources. And then, so we've kind of taken the whole classroom-based process, and we've put in our MTSS tier 1 kiddos who are on target, and they're just getting that additional practice of what does it mean to make a claim? What does it mean to cite evidence? And so they're just, every week there's a new story, they're getting practice. And so as the social studies teachers start the classroom-based assessment, it's not anything new to kids. They've had multiple practice and they can just kind of hit the ground running with it. So I'd be more than happy to share that process. We've kind of put in a keynote, and students kind of work through the process as they go. And we're finding really good results with students understanding what the process is.
Okay, first off, Marcy, you're amazing, and it's good to see you. Let's talk about the content reading skills you're building in your students. So not only are you building assessment literacy for them when they actually go through the state assessment, you are teaching kids reading strategies and then having them substantiate their claims, which is a close reading strategy.
Yes.
As a reading specialist, I'm over here like kicking it, loving it. Yes, I would love that information because I think it just makes sense. Our school, we just started Avid this year, and Avid's big on Wicker for those of you that do know Avid, and that's, those reading strategies need to show up. And I would go as far to say, Marcy, it wouldn't hurt to even see science do a little bit of that too. And so I'm just thinking in my mind, what a great way to have teachers engage in content-based reading and build skills for kids that they can leverage in every classroom they take. I love that.
Well, and the thing that we have found is, during the MTSS time, we have a math teacher that's leading a reading group. We have the sciences. I mean, everybody, all hands on deck. And so as grade level teams, they've really understood the process that we're asking kids to do for the assessment. And so it's not, hey, it's just the social studies teacher's responsibility to make sure this assessment. We've really taken a team approach of, oh, this is how I can support students with their reading skills. This is how I can support them. And so we're just really seeing good results overall. Once we've created that template, the template stays and it's just a new story each week. So it's very systematic. And we are doing it with grade levels 4 through 8. Someone said, yeah, 4 through 8.
Yeah, the thing that I like is how it could even be pushed into core. So we could see that in our core classes. And I know for our social studies here, we're talking a lot about how we want to find more time and resources so the students can be reading more and engaged in those concepts. So I love it. And I could see that showing up in core instruction here at Siena Middle School.
That's that integration piece from navigating change.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also called just good teaching. Come on, that's how we should be doing it. Interdisciplinary studies is how it should be done through every grade level. We should see that.
Josh, I shared a link that I was asked to share from ACT, and I don't know if that's a discussion item, if anyone is using ACT at the high school level to dig in a little deeper with content. I know one of the things that we are contemplating is requiring a physical and earth space science and using the ACT, digging deeper into that to allow students to maybe not take that requirement and move on to chemistry, because as a little district, it's hard, very difficult. And those of you that are in smaller districts understand to offer all of those courses. So I'd be kind of curious to hear how districts are using ACT, or if you are, to dig deeper into that data, and how are you using that data to impact instruction and making decisions related to individual plans of study. Crickets.
It's a good question.
We just, I just pushed the ACT WorkKeys certificates out. We do our parent-teacher conferences early, or student-led conferences. So we've trained the teachers the seminar teachers at the high school, train them how to teach their students to read those results and then be able to share those results with their parents. And it is, the WorkKeys is a requirement for their individual plan of study, along with the regular ACT. But I might ask, is anyone struggling with ACT, getting all the uploads and accommodations and navigating through all the websites? Or is it just me because I'm getting old?
Christy's shaking her head.
I am not in charge of it, but I know my colleague who is, and she felt it was just her struggling. But she says there are multiple screens and it has taken her much longer than she anticipated. And
We've
then
got-
she says, ironically, she feels like a lot of the kids, ACT will deny the accommodations anyway. So she feels like it's kind of a futile effort.
Ooh, okay,
Well,
so
tell her that I did all the accommodations last week, whenever that deadline was, before the deadline, and I kind of just, I know our kids, and I couldn't find all the documentation, but I sent up what I had, and every one of them were approved within a day. So I don't know if it's just a practice, and I don't think anybody's really up there screening them. That's just my 2 cents worth.
one thing that we're changing on our IEPs is we're changing the accommodations to write from assessment to testing. So every accommodation on the IEP, it states for testing, not assessments, because apparently that's going to be the thing they're looking for on your IEPs, is for it to say testing, which to me is just interesting, because testing and assessment, we're talking synonyms, but the practice we're shifting here is to use the verbiage testing in the accommodation section on our IEPs, which is supposed to help keep them from denying those accommodations. I also am seeing other people say that, yes, it's a nightmare. Yes, we've had issues. People are having a hard time. So it seems to be a systemic thing, not an age thing.
That's good to know, the age thing. But so I don't know, has anybody heard whispers about the legislature's no longer going to fund the ACT?
I don't know the answer to that. We do have a question here in the box that says, does an accommodation affect the validity or acceptance of an ACT score? We had an administrator who thought it did. I've never heard such a thing.
Jacqueline, if you're old, so am I. And I'm refusing to call myself old.
Has anybody else heard that an accommodation would affect the validity or acceptance of an AT? I mean, they wouldn't have them if I wouldn't see, I mean, I just have never heard that. That's my personal. So if someone else has, please share. It seems counterintuitive. That's why we have accommodations. Oh, someone else just said the same thing. Nope, that's the point of the accommodation. Okay, 2 data points, we'll go with it. Okay.
Well, the reason I started this conversation, Josh, was those of us that are old, older than you, way older than you.
Yes.
There were 2 curriculum leaders in our state that are now working for ACT, Sherry Reed, who used to work for Greenbush and Auburn Washburn, and Kim Rasmussen, who was at the State Department, Auburn Washburn, Leavenworth, I believe, and later in their career. They have actually dug in deep to the ACT, and they have done some work aligning to the competencies of the state. And that's what that workshop is all about, is having a deeper discussion on pre-ACT and then ACT. So looking at the predictors, knowing what areas you really need to target, how to target those. And again, it goes back to what Josh said, just good teaching, but using data to drive the impact of that final ACT score.
And I will say, I know both of them and they're both amazing. So anything that they do, you'll have a good experience with. I think though, when I was in my previous district as a curriculum leader, the one thing that we spent some time on was the curriculum workbooks that come along with it that really explain what a student can do and what predicted score that would provide a student on. And it was really interesting to work with teachers and have them see that, oh, this ability is predicted from a 19 to a 21. Here's one that would predict from a 23 to a 20 whatever. And there was some really good conversations about instruction and rigor in the classroom and what we're expecting students to do in our classroom assessments, and if we're really pushing our students to demonstrate their learning at a higher level. So there are some really good documents out there that they do provide on top of having them just come in and train.
Okay, we probably have time for one more topic. I know somebody's sitting out there burning with a question and afraid to throw it out there. What is it? Josh, you want? Go ahead, Bill.
Well, this is way out there, but so I've been working really hard on teacher recruitment and retention. And our Chamber of Commerce, I went to the Chamber and EcoDevo, and we've got some strategies going for our community, but the Chamber wants, for retention, they want to recognize a teacher of the month in our community, which is all great and dandy, but they're not thinking about the criteria or the selection process. I'm just like, and I'm at a loss also. I don't know if anybody had any ideas or something similar in their communities that they would be willing to share.
Hey, Bill, we have something at Halstead called the True Blue Award. It's I believe it's every quarter, I think. And we have one classified and one certified award that goes out. And it's all based on nomination from their peers. We don't have any criteria. We don't have any requirements. It's based on, we just send out a Google form that says, hey, if you've got somebody you want to nominate, and give us a paragraph of why. And that's been really powerful for us, because we then have a dinner with their families and the Board of Education and the admin, and we read aloud some of the things that their peers have had to say about them. And so it really kind of took the pressure off of having that rubric that you had to grade or anything like that. And it really has been staff driven. And it seems to be a positive thing for our school. So I don't know if that helps at all.
So do you have a committee that goes through all those quarterly and they choose one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our chamber's wanting to do things like a free dinner at the restaurant, oil change, just some things around town. It's been tough, and we need them to know that we love them and we want to keep them.
100%.
Okay, so I'm going to use the last few minutes. Pat's asking if there are any topics you want information from KSDE. And actually, that's where I was headed with my next question is, KSDE has been, we had put out through the Curriculum Leaders Listserv a kindergarten readiness star, kind of going through that with a group of districts. And they have decided to continue that. And so we're going to schedule 3 more sessions, and we're going to go through each of the indicators within that star rubric and just share what each of our districts are doing. It's just a collaborative thing. And so I wanted to ask a couple questions of this group. Is that something that you would like to do with the other areas of the star qualitative pieces? And if you do, if you could put that in the chat, that you would be interested in that would be great. The other things that I wanted to ask was KSCD is trying to make a bigger impact on just supporting curriculum leaders across the state. As the executive director, I am going to part-time as a superintendent next year. And so we're hoping to provide more opportunities to curriculum leaders across the state. So I'd also like to know, looking forward, would you like to set up networking sessions once a month next year instead of just quarterly like this, like what we're doing? So that would be question 2. And then question 3 is we are working with an author on personalized learning. And we had tried to offer that virtually and COVID kind of got in the way. So we are bringing the author back to work with us on personalized learning through KSCD. Is that something you are interested in virtually, or would you like to do something like that in person? If you would be interested in that conference. That just helps us better meet your needs. Thanks for your input. Michelle says she's on now. So if you had any licensure questions or subs, KISA questions, you might be able to put those in the chat and Michelle could help us address some of those questions.
Well, and I think about next year, if more of monthly meetings are going to take place versus quarterly, we probably need to make sure if we're doing that virtually that we can leverage some breakout rooms so people can set in places and discuss topics a little deeper and don't have to wait until their topic comes across the agenda. So I think the agendas should probably be driven pretty much by the field. And so I think the one thing we would need to do if we were to make them virtual is to have options where we can move in and out of rooms so people have more flexibility. And it would also be nice if we could do a few of those in person. I miss being in person. These meetings before the curriculum leaders used to be so powerful, especially when we were going through a lot of transitional change. And I know that now we are in a place where there are no subs and we are trying to survive day to day. But I do think there's power in seeing one another and talking in person. So I personally would like maybe a blended approach, Valora, as we think moving forward.
Well, and the other thing that we could do, Josh, is we could actually have a curriculum leaders unconference this summer.
Yeah.
If people would be interested in that, where we just bring the topics to the table and we do breakouts in person.
Absolutely. Well, you don't have subs then. So that would be a little bit easier maybe to get out.
I don't know if anybody would be interested in that.
I would be.
Could be more work sessions. We have strong opinion options between blah, blah. Yeah, Laura, I agree. There needs to be work time as well.
And that's actually the way, like you said, Laura, that first one was great. And I agree, because it was kind of, she went through things. And then now we're going to take that kindergarten readiness after she went through all those rubrics. And now we're going to break it down and we're going to actually be able to kind of work as a group then on 1 and 2, and then we'll work on 3 and 4, breaking those pieces apart of that rubric. And that's really what I envision is more of work sessions for those next 3 meetings so that we can share what each other's doing And we can add to like, oh yeah, we're doing that. So let's add that to our rubric. I didn't even think about adding that. Or, oh, I can tweak this a little bit and make what we're doing more powerful. And we could do a blended approach, Josh.
You know, I'm ornery, so I like to be ornery, and that gives an opportunity to be ornery with your friends too. So I like a little bit of that too. And we could use, I'm sure, KSB, we could ask them for a location. They're always very willing to let us.
And that's why I'm asking early, is so that I can get those scheduled and on our calendars, because we all know how, I know you're already scheduling things for next year. All right, Josh, that takes us to about 10 till. So I think we'll take a 10-minute break and we can come back at 10 o'clock and turn the meeting over to Pat.
Well, thank you everybody for coming in with us and spending some time. Valora, I appreciate you as always. And I'll see some of you guys on the flip side.
Ditto, thanks for all the great ideas. I just stole a whole bunch of from you this morning.